With me today is a brand new 2019 Lexus LX 570, and this is the biggest and most expensive SUV Lexus sells today. Now, despite the fact that it's not the largest or quickest or even the cheapest SUV in this segment, Lexus still sells plenty of these each and every year, and that's because the underpinnings of this is a Toyota Land Cruiser, one of the most capable, rugged, and longest lasting SUVs on the road today. So in this review, I'm going to show you the ins and outs, also go for a drive, and finally conclude with the good, the bad, the ugly, so you guys could decide if this is the right SUV for you. Stay tuned. Before I get started, I want to give a big shout out to McGrath Lexus of Westmont. They made this video possible, so if you're in the market for a new or used Lexus, make sure you check out their dealership. The URL is in the description below. Let's start out by looking at the front end to this LX 570, which to me looks big, bold, brash, aggressive. I really dig it because how big this SUV is, how wide, how tall it is, combined with the spindle grille, it's just really in your face. And if this was driving behind you, there's no doubt you know it's an LX 570. Besides the spindle grille, look at the headlights. This is full LED, tri-beam headlights, also daytime running lights and turn signals, all integrated, and it looks really unique. Besides that, you do see some fog lights here. You got a camera over here for the 360 system, and that's pretty much it to the front end. It's big, it's bold, it's in your face, and I really dig it. Moving on to the side of this LX 570, I gotta say the profile of this pretty much stayed the same for the last 30 years. That's right, because my brother-in-law has a Land Cruiser / LX 450, and it still has that basic shape, and that's done on purpose, so you can't mistake it for any other SUV on the road today. Now, if you take a look at the body panels, it is all painted, nothing is matte black, everything is painted, which is really nice, even the underside of the mirror. And this matches with the window surround, which is painted black, and also matches with the privacy glass. Now, the aluminum rail, it is aluminum, nice and beefy, and it really matches with the chrome door handles, and also these gorgeous looking 21-inch alloy wheels. These are optional, but they really fill up the wheel wells nicely. And with the adaptive suspension all the way lowered to the ground, combined with these wheels, really give it that aggressive stance. Now, moving on to the rear, this, just like the front, is big, it's bold, it's in your face, and I like it. Let's take a look on the top. You have a spoiler, privacy glass, the taillights completely LED, and the tailgate opens up two ways. First, opens upwards like so. So if you just wanted to put something in quick, you can. But this also folds down like this, so that if you want to load something in, and if you want to sit here for tailgating or for whatever reason, it makes it very easy. Now, you can order the LX 570s with the third row or without. This one equipped is with the third row, and as you can see, with the third row up, it really cuts into the trunk space. There's really not that much room for boxes or anything like that. There's enough for groceries, but for suitcases, larger boxes, you definitely want to fold these up. And how you would do so is really easy. The controls are here. First of all, you fold the seat down, and then it folds out of the way. There you go. And the same thing on the other side. Now, as you can see, with the third row up, there's a significant amount of trunk space in here, which is more than enough for most people. But you got to keep in mind, because of how these fold up on the side, the seat base or the bottom does take a significant amount of room on both sides. Now, to get it back into upright position again, you simply fold it down. And then you lift on this. And then that's pretty much it. Now, besides the third row, there's really not much back here. There's no cubby holes, no nets. You do get an outlet over here, which is nice. This is a regular outlet that you could plug a gaming system, iPad, whatever you want. So that's pretty nice. But that's it back here. Now, moving on to the second row, this is a very comfortable and spacious place to be in. Although I expected even more space due to the how big this SUV is, but there's plenty of it. I'm 5'10". There's at least a good 5 to 6 inches of legroom left. Same thing, headroom 6 to 8 inches, plenty of width. The seats are adjustable, forwards and backwards, electronic. There's a switch over here. Now to lean forwards and backwards, there's a lever here to do so. That is manual. Now besides the seats, you get a tablet holder. As you can see, Lexus is trying to get away from the DVD Blu-ray setup that you see in a lot of SUVs and cars that's hanging here. They say that everyone's going to tablets, iPads. Why not, cater to that? And that's why they have these instead. Now the windows have sunshade. They are manual, but at least you get 2 big climate vents over here, and they are controlled with the armrest. And the armrest also gives you option for heated and cooled seats, which you don't see a lot of in the second row. So let me show you what that looks like. Here's a better look at the manual sunshades. As you can see, it goes down, and then when you need it, pull it back up, and there you go. Here's a better look of those climate vents, nice and big. And here's the armrest I was talking about. This is how you can control it. You can control the temperature on either side or just go auto. And also you can control heated seats and cool seats. Now cool seats is something that you don't see a lot of in the second row. Now to fold down the second row is actually really easy. It's a one-step process. All you have to do is lift up this handle and it'll fall down and it just goes up. However, as you can see here, it does hit the tablet holder a little bit, so it kind of prevents it from folding all the way up. But as you can see, as a grown adult, you could get in here pretty easily. So moving on to the front, take a look from the door panel to the center. You got this large 12.3 inch screen going to the gauge, the steering wheel, the center console. This just all looks very nice, very luxurious. Now let's start out with the steering wheel. This is nice. You got leather and wood combination. You got paddle shifters back here. On this side you can control the menu over there, volume, your phone. Now on this side you can control a few things. You can navigate through the menu, go back, up and down, left and right. This is for lane departure assist. This is the radar guided cruise controller, and this is how you set and enable the cruise control. So there's a few things here. Now if you look at the gauge cluster, unlike a lot of cars where the whole thing is all digital, you just get a 4-inch screen in the middle that you can navigate through that has a whole bunch of features like tire pressure, compass, your audio. This is your lanes, like whether or not you're between the lanes. And then of course this is pretty traditional. Take a look on the side. Actually there's a meter. There's a gauge for your battery voltage. That is very unique. That's carried over from Land Cruiser. And same thing on that side. You have oil pressure. You don't see that in a lot of cars these days, right? So that's pretty unique. Now underneath there you see low. That is the adaptive suspension, and that is controlled over here. So right now I have it in the lowest setting. If you want to move it up, there you go. It'll start moving up to kind of the middle ground. They call it N. And then you can move it to high, which really lifts up the whole SUV. Now moving over here, this gorgeous and large screen, 12.3 inch screen, that is controlled with this. Now a lot of people complain about this. This does take getting used to. If you hit the menu button, this is where you can control a lot of things, navigation, radio, and this is all controlled through this like little mouse thing here, which you can click into. Okay, like so, or you can hit the enter on the side, and that also goes to it. And then you can always go back to map if you don't want to. If you don't want to see anything, you can also zoom in and out. That's all controlled through here. This takes getting used to, and a lot of people prefer touchscreens now, and this is not touch yet. I'm sure the next revision or next refresh of the LX will include a touchscreen. Now you got an analog clock, which looks very elegant. Now moving down here, this is pretty standard. Climate control, both sides. And then you can control your defrosters, and there's some buttons for the radios and so forth. So they didn't eliminate the volume knob, which is good. And this comes with the optional Mark Levinson surround sound, which sounds great. Down here, there's a place for your phone. Actually, this is for wireless charging, which is nice. Over here, just a couple of cup holders. They aren't the largest, but you do get something here. Parking brake. Traditional shifter, really good. Now you get a whole bunch of controls here Let me go through some of them. This is for heated seats. This is auto. This is cooled seats, heated steering wheel. Same thing on that side. This controls the adaptive suspension, which goes up and down. This controls the four-wheel drive. If you want to go into high or low. If you go into low, then you can control a whole bunch of settings here for mud, rock crawling, and stuff like that. That is what this is for. This is just for normal driving. You could put it for eco or comfort, normal, or you could put into sport. And depending on what you change it to, it kind of tunes the suspension, throttle, and so forth. Now over here, you could start out in second gear. This is for the locking center differential. This is for traction control. This is for hill descent. And this is for turn assist. So when you open this up, this is kind of deceiving. As you can see, you could put maybe a few more drinks here, but you figure there'll be a lot more space, right? Well, Lexus fools you. You could pull this out and take a look. There's a massive amount of space in there. So kind of hidden department. And in terms of USB ports, there's 2 that's hidden down here, and that's about it. There was none in the back. These are the only 2 that you get. And over here, this is for the power lift gate. You could turn off the power door, and this is for the pre-collision system. You do have auto high beam. This is the washers for the headlights. This is for heads-up display. Now this is for driver assist. So if you have this on, when you turn the car off, it will lower the suspension for you. And when you start the car back up, it'll re-raise it. So that's a pretty nice feature. Outside of that, this is pretty standard memory seats. This is the usual window controls. Now moving up here, you do have SOS in case you get an emergency. And up here, you could control your sunroof, which is just a traditional one. It's not a panoramic one. Now let's go for a drive and see how this LX 570 behaves on the road. All right, so I'm behind the wheel. First impression is it's a very tall SUV, much taller than most crossovers out there. So those of you guys on the shorter side, you definitely want to use the integrated step rail. You do sit very high. It's a very commanding drive, which is nice. This is why a lot of people love SUVs, especially very tall ones like this. It is very, very, very quiet. I mean, almost too quiet. It is extremely quiet. When you do step on the gas, you do hear the engine. They call it the LX 570 is because it has a 5.7 liter engine. It is a massive one, pushing 383 horsepower and over 400 feet-pounds of torque. Now this LX 570 can tow up to 7,000 pounds, which is a decent amount, but it is lower than a Land Cruiser and some of its competitors because of the weight of this LX 570. Now in terms of visibility, it's good, but could be better. In terms of the rear, the middle headrest definitely blocks the view. Same thing with the side headrest, both sides, and the ones in the third row, they all stick out and block the rear visibility, but you can still see past them. In terms of the sides, they are good. In terms of the front, the windshield, it's big, but it could be bigger. And the reason why I say that is because the hood is fairly high, which means it forces you to sit higher on the seat. It forces you to raise the seat. And when you raise the seat, your eye level is getting up there. So I feel like I'm sitting above and not in the seat. Now this LX 570 does have both adaptive steering and also adaptive suspension, but I gotta say the suspension is a bit bouncier than I expected. Some of the other cars I've driven with adaptive suspension, nice and smooth. This one, it's a little bouncy. That could be because of the optional 21-inch wheels. So the sidewalls on the tires is very narrow. It could be because of that. Now in terms of safety features, you pretty much get it all. This is becoming the standard these days across all manufacturers. You get cross traffic alerts in the rear, auto braking, you get lane departure assist, adaptive cruise control, blind spot monitoring, all that. Anything you could think of, it does come with it, and that's becoming a norm, a standard across pretty much all manufacturers. Now because this is a box-on-frame traditional SUV with a traditional four-wheel drive system with locking center differential and all that good stuff, it is very heavy. And Lexus did their best in terms of optimizing fuel economy with the 8-speed transmission and with their 5.7 liter V8, but it still trails the pack. In terms of fuel economy, you're getting combined of 15 miles per gallon, 18 on the highway, 13 in the city. So that's definitely coming in at the low end of this segment. Now, when you're sitting here and driving, it just kind of makes you feel like you're on top of the world. It's a really nice looking SUV. It's big, bold, in your face. You can't miss it. And also inside, it's very comfortable. It's quiet. It drives nice. And it just makes you feel like you're in something special. And it definitely makes you feel like it's deserving of that price tag. Now, in terms of acceleration, it's pretty decent. I would say middle of the pack, 0 to 60, about 7.5 seconds. So not the quickest in the segment, but definitely not slow either. You're not going to have problems getting up to speed, passing, none of that. You're not going to have a problem with. I actually really like the exhaust note. Because this is a Lexus, they try to tone it down. There's so much sound dampening in here. You hear very little of the outside, but you do still hear the exhaust note a little bit, and I'm actually a big fan of it. It's a big V8 sound, and I love V8s. Now, in terms of brakes, they feel pretty good, although I feel like because of the heft of this SUV, you could definitely feel the brake. You could feel the car shift when you're braking a little bit, but the overall feel is nice. It doesn't catch on too quick. It's not too delayed either, right in the middle. Although because of the heft of this SUV, you could definitely feel that when you're braking, especially when you're braking hard. Now, in terms of steering, it feels a little numb. You don't get a lot of feedback. It's unlike some of the other SUVs I've driven where you just feel a lot more connected with the car, especially when turning, not so much in here. Now, one of the biggest reasons why Lexus still continues to sell a lot of LX 570s each and every year is because of its heritage, its underpinnings with Land Cruiser. And Land Cruiser definitely has a fan base, and that's because they are extremely rugged, they're very capable, and they pretty much last forever. Everything I showed you guys in terms of the 4, high, low, and all the different modes for off-roading, you don't see that in a lot of SUVs. Very limited SUVs, in fact. Besides Land Cruisers and 4Runners, the only other SUV you would see them in is Wranglers, and that's pretty much it. Because of how capable it is, how rugged it is, and how bulletproof it is, that is why so many people flock to Land Cruisers and LXs, and they pretty much keep them forever. And that is also the reason why resale values on LXs are insane. They're insane. If you're looking at ones that's 2, 3, 4, 5, even 10 years old, they still command a large amount of money, and that's because a lot of people want them. To conclude, let's talk about the good, the bad, the ugly to this LX 570. Starting with the good, the LX 570 has a bold and modern exterior styling. It has a very luxurious interior. It is spacious and comfortable. There's plenty of off-road capability. It is extremely reliable, and it has an extremely high resale value. As for the bad, there's a few things. For example, there's little trunk space with the third row up. Fuel economy is lacking in the segment. There is numb steering. The suspension is a little bumpy. The infotainment system is not touchscreen. And lastly, for those of you guys that love Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, it is not available on the LX 570. And in terms of the price, LX 570 start out around $90,000. This one has pretty much every single option, and it's coming in right below $100,000. Thanks for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you give me a thumbs up and also subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on my future reviews, and also take an opportunity to look at some of my past reviews.